So the first step to setting up the planning modules, the legs module and the manifests module, the first step is to change what columns you're presented with in the list below. So it's the same way for both modules. What you do is you click on the blue icon, and this is going to give you a menu of the different characteristics that you can show on the screen. So there's a maximum of 12 columns in the legs module, and I think it's the same number on the manifest module. So you have a maximum of 12. It tells you how many you have used, and this is what the selection is by default. So what your task is to think about what information do your dispatchers and planners need in order to determine if these legs are appropriate matches for the drivers that are out on the road with equipment. So it's very easy to change. My suggestion is that you play with it a little bit, but let's talk about what I suggest as a default setup. I include the order shipper and order consignee because you may want to see who the ultimate shipper is and the ultimate receiver is. I don't include the customer because the customer actually has a short code which you'll be able to identify in the order ID, and also you can preview the order very quickly just by clicking on it. I keep the type and the origin and destination. You want to see the origin and destination because it includes data about the required pickup and delivery times for the legs. I generally do not include revenue, but you might want to see that, so you can keep it if you'd like. I will suggest that you don't include leg accessorials, and the reason for that is because we're going to keep order tags. And there's a way to set up the accessorials to, by default, add a certain tag. So that makes this kind of redundant. You don't want to, for example, need to see tailgate accessorial and then the tailgate tag. That's a waste of a column. So let's just keep the order tags selected. You want to see the freight, of course. The freight in this case is the weight and the number of pallets or units that you're moving. The cube is what would be the cubic volume of the shipments. So if you have a shipment, for example, let's go into one here. Let's go into this one, where there are dimensions provided. So 48 by 40 by 96 inches is this skid. That's going to translate into a cubic volume, which you can choose to show. The same goes for pieces. So this is more the number of pieces, the set to contain of each pallet, for example. You may or may not need that for your dispatching, so you can choose to include it or not. The linear footage is, of course, how much space on the trailer a given shipment is. If you're doing full load, this is probably not very useful information. If you are doing LTL, perhaps it is. The last four columns are related to the order tags. So this one I almost always keep on because tags usually tell me some important information, and it's something that I can filter on. So you'll see that in another video. And then there is previous leg driver, previous leg status, and current leg status. Of course, you want to see the current leg status always, because if you're doing LTL planning, for example, it would be helpful to know, well, has this shipment been picked up yet or not? If I'm planning the outbound, the delivery legs, for example, and if I can't see the previous leg status, I don't know whether it's been picked up yet or not, and I don't know if it's going to make it back to the terminal or not. So let's now make these selections. So I'm going to say include those, drop that, drop revenue. Let's include the linear footage, and let's also include the previous leg driver and the previous leg status. So when you click save, the columns of information are going to change now. And my suggestion is to sort of review this and play with it and make sure that it shows you the right information. So you're going to then repeat those steps for the manifest module. So I'm sliding over the manifest module now. I'm going to click on the blue grid, and I get the same sort of menu. except it's slightly different information. So this is information that relates specifically to the manifest. So legs was information that was related to the specific order. So I just clicked on an order there. You can get a preview of the order, how much is being moved. So that's the information you're going to see in these columns. The manifest is going to be obviously information that comes from the manifest. So if I click on the blue grid, I'm now going to choose what information I bring in. And I generally include, of course, the driver or the partner carrier on the manifest. Equipment, so that's the truck and the trailer. The number of stops is usually useful, as well as the start date. And then this is where you can customize based on your business needs. So I can choose to bring in the first stop, previous stop, next stop, and last stop. So this is the ultimate first stop of the manifest, and this is the ultimate last stop of the manifest. The freight column is going to show me a total of all of the volume on the manifest. So that is, total weight and total pallets on the manifest. Same goes for linear footage and total cube. If you're doing full load planning, rather long haul full load planning, you perhaps want to bring in total miles, and maybe you don't care about these dimensions as much. Again, the idea is that you select the columns that you want to see and deselect the ones that you don't want to see. Most of these are pretty self-explanatory. The only one that I would like to call your attention to is the last seen location. So if I turn on last seen location, and let me hit save now so we can kind of see that, this field is going to be populated with one of two pieces of information. It could come from the driver's mobile app as the driver updates the status of their stops. So I can see, for example, driver Jerry has completed 2 of 5 stops, and he was last seen at this location. And that location was actually the last pickup that they had just completed. So they completed this pickup at the Tesla HQ in Palo Alto, and that's why their last seen location is in Palo Alto. When the driver goes and completes the next stop, so let me just do that. I'm going to do that manually. So let's say the driver then completes this delivery in Sparks, Nevada. So I'm going to do this manually. I'm going to go back to the manifest module. Now we're going to see that the last seen location is Sparks, Nevada. The other source of information could be the ELD. So if you have an ELD that Rose Rocket integrates with, and you've turned on that integration, this last seen location will actually come from the ping, the latest ping from the ELD. So that means this becomes more of a real-time visibility of the driver's status, and the truck icon in the manifest details page will move. So the main takeaways I wanted you to get from this video are that use the blue grid to open the menu to select what information you want to see or not to see in the manifest and the legs module, so that you can make the best decision about what legs should be assigned to which drivers.